So our view is that the human will stay in the loop, but what will change is the way they work will change dramatically. Now, in the future, in a couple of years' time, we think that the average knowledge worker will have a dozen AI agents that are helping them deliver their workflow. They will still make the decisions, they will still oversee that process, but the heavy lifting will be done by AI. Now, at the moment, people tend to use systems. In the future, AI agents will sit between the person and the system, and they will orchestrate the work, handle the escalations and the exceptions. Humans will still do the thinking. They will orchestrate that process and be the master of that process, but the heavy lifting will be taken away from them. Today, people think about, how do we bring AI into a process? Tomorrow, they're actually designing an AI native workflow, where the end-to-end process is radically different than it is today, rather than just a little tweak. And that then starts to make you realize that once you've got beyond the low-hanging fruit of the easy wins, then you start to need to think fundamentally about different ways of working within the banks. So what will be the future role of the junior banker? How will they take on some of the work that's done by more senior individuals today? How will the managing director use the time that's made available to create more revenue and profit? And how does the shape of the organisation move from the pyramid it is today to something a bit different? And that means a lot of change management is needed. We need to think about our talent strategy. We need to think about how we are going to help our employees on this complex journey. We need to hire different, we need to train different, we need to promote differently. We're going to have to help people to progress who are capable of managing AI enhanced workflow and use AI alongside their colleagues. And that means even the graduates we recruit will be different. I'm delighted that my own son is studying a course on machine learning and AI as part of his engineering degree. I think all of the new entrants into the workforce in the future will have to be AI native as they come in. It's a great opportunity.
If you use AI as a productivity tool only, you're bound to be making very big mistakes, because there is a temptation to rely on it knowing about the next issue. We don't want analysts, obviously, to go down that route, and it's a bit difficult sometimes to have a ex post control of those issues. AI is a very powerful tool if people are actually very educated. So it's a strange aspect of AI, and I guess it's the same observation in many industries. If you put the AI in the hands of a beginner, he seems to have he has powerful tools, but he doesn't know how to judge the outcome of his prompt. If you have a more senior person with a high level of education and a good cultural understanding of the complexity of the world, you can qualify the feedback from AI. So one of these paradoxical issues is that it's so powerful that it needs competent people, and that there is scarcity. Finding people who are either well-educated or who are experienced and can make the best of AI is actually quite difficult in our industry, because you need such a breadth of view that you need to be flexible. Obviously, a given analyst might address a technical issue on waveguides, something which is high technical for the mastery of light. And at the next minute, have a discussion about the fact that the same company with a waveguide is effectively as well a marketing company of glasses. So you see two completely different problems. AI may help on the first aspect, but you need somebody with good sense to make sure that the outcome of AI is effectively correct, which requires a lot of knowledge.
I believe every organization is in the middle of an AI transition of some sort. From what we see, banks are finding it both exciting as well as challenging. They're finding it exciting because of the huge potential it has to improve customer experience and transform everything from a risk assessment to customer experience. But the challenge lies in execution. And the reason is, and I've talked about it previously, banks are complex organizations, massive processes, systems don't speak with each other, and then they are trying to overlay technology about that. So it's more about a cultural change and change management rather than a technology upgrade. Banks really need to focus, and where they are, some of the banks are focusing on change management rather than technology adoption. In terms of change management, I was reading this research by Deloitte, and it says that banks who are sort of investing in change management are 1.6 times more successful in their AI transition journeys than the ones which are not. So according to me, there are three things which are extremely important for banks to make their AI transition successful. And they are, first of all, a leadership-led cultural transformation. We see so many restructurings within banks and so many changes in their operating model. And believe me, the leaders who are thriving are the ones who are change managers, who are open to working with third parties, who are sort of have a very client-first attitude. So it has to flow from the top. There has to be a lot of communication and clarity that has to flow within the organization. And that brings me to my second point about clarity of roles and about training and reskilling the workforce. So essentially, AI is a lot about change. It is changing the roles and performances and structures of organization, and people need clarity on how their roles are going to change. So while the leadership and while the organizations need to do a lot about how the roles are changing, they require to continuously reskill their employees on artificial intelligence. And if people know that how AI and technology is going to help their mission, they are going to be more of change partners. They will sort of, rather than just be recipients, they will be active participants in their AI transition journey. And last but not the least, continuous feedback to technology solutions is extremely important, because technology solution, it's not one size fits all. And the technology solutions have to adapt, have to learn from the human expertise. So people have to continuously give feedback to their digital solutions team to improve the technology, to improve the accuracy of their solutions. So overall, I would say AI transition is not operational, it is cultural.
Upskilling the workforce was a priority. I mentioned perhaps this huge program called AI Pioneers. It started with 200 people allocating 20% of their time to AI. And this program has been disseminated all to the network units as well. Now we have in every department, we have AI ambassadors. AI ambassadors have also this responsibility of promoting the reverse mentoring with the leaders. And in the current state, we are upskilling the leaders, because we understand that without not only the support, but also the understanding, because there are many layers of understanding on how to implement AI. So we are talking about regulations, we are talking about image, we are talking about investments, we are talking about budget, we are talking about optimizing process. So we understand, and this is being corroborated by studies now by Gartner, every investment into upskilling the workforce was extremely well succeeded in promoting the AI transformation in general. We were, since the beginning, much more focused on people and mindset and culture than technologies. Of course, the technologies are there, but people have to know what they would wish, what they would envision, how would they use and implement in their processes. Because, as I also mentioned in the beginning, we are embedding AI in the core business. We are not experimenting with technologies. So we are business-driven, process-driven instead of technology-driven. If you don't get the product owners or the managers to understand how far they can go or how they can embed AI technologies in their business processes, we will be just playing with nice and exciting tools without a proper business-driven goal.
So measurement starts off by having a good baseline. We baseline our current performance, both because we have time recording for our analysts, but also because we take a panel of different examples for a particular use case, and we measure how long they take us without the AI solution. And then each time we introduce a new version of our solutions, then we measure again and we can see the efficiency gained. Now, in addition, we need to make sure that we encourage usage and adoption. So we track usage every week for every user, and then we then have a program of interventions to help train people, to help them see what best practice looks like, and to encourage usage. So that in that way we can ensure maximum adoption. And then for each of our solutions, we can actually see page by page how users are using the solution, and therefore we can improve the design over time.
Practically, for the purpose of unifying the quality of editing, that is already in place at Alpha Value, and I suspect most of our competitors have done that. It's quite unstable. It's hard to make sure that AI is stable in such a simple task, but that is implemented. Where we have leverage, as I say, is to extend the wings of the analyst, and that is on a case-by-case basis. But the beauty of it is that if you want to dig, you can dig quite far. Let me give you an example. If you have a concern of weather events having an impact on some company which is listed and with assets which might be impacted by those weather events. Today, in the reporting of a given corporate, you don't have much about the geography of the assets which could be under weather events. If you use AI, it can, with the right prompt, it can help you create some sort of a map to assess risk for the asset of that corporate. So assume that corporate is a hypermarket company. It's very easy, obviously, to get the locations. It's very easy to know what is the average weather. It's very easy to sort of having an assessment of the risk that that corporate might have due to the location of its different stores. And you can repeat the story on a number of companies. At the end of the day, you can have a map of risk that the corporate will not have provided by itself, but that you can extract from such a piece of work. And this is where it is absolutely fantastic. But you need to have people who can, in effect, have these sort of question marks and wonder how to bring that back into a single answer using the might of AI tools.
So almost every bank that we talk to is trialling multiple AI solutions, and many are deploying at least a couple around their organisation. So far, they've tended to focus on the early proof points, which tends to be where they've got work that they do at scale, that they understand really well and is highly automatable, things like company profiles. But now the more leading banks are moving on to some more areas of differentiation. Now many of them have started by rolling out an AI assistant, typically based on one of the large language models like OpenAI, and these have proven to be really good investments because they give a lot of people in the organisation a chance to use AI to automate some of the work that they do. And that gives a good sort of training and knowledge benefit as well as the automation. But actually it's also a bit limiting because it just automates a sort of point in a process rather than changing fundamentally how the process gets done. And that's why we've moved more, and the leading banks are moving more towards more workflow-based solutions, where they can leverage agentic AI with traditional approaches like automation and process orchestration to actually automate an end-to-end workflow. And that's really where they get the biggest return. And that's where our Agent Fleet solution actually focuses on. Agent Fleet is a solution that's being used today by leading banks like Standard Chartered Bank and DC Advisory. And they're using it to automate the end-to-end workflow of things like credit risk assessments and investment memos and company profiles.
This is natural for us, so even now we are implementing new use cases with agents, and we define some levels of agency. If we follow the EU AI Act, they need to constantly be overseen by humans. So human oversight is a given for use cases. We are also experimenting a phenomenon that this is not only on RBI, but in the industry in general, that there's a layer of junior positions that would be completely disrupted because of the expectations of knowledge that you would have for the new hirings and new collaborators. Processes that are being automated by AI are the process with low knowledge, process data intensive exchange. And we see that there's a creation of a gap on the workforce. We will tend to prioritize senior and high expertise professionals. There's a gap on skills that are going to be created by the dissemination of the use of AI. We have to take care not to outsource creative aspects, because we know that models are biased, models follow the data that they were trained upon. The more we outsource decisions, the more we delegate to AI, we would be locked in regards to an ethos, how you imagine that what is acceptable. We see differences in the American regulations for AI and the emphasis in China, for example. Models are being created. AI models have embedded the culture aspects. There's a cultural war. If you're using Grok, you would buy to certain decisions that are acceptable for Grok. If you're using models from OpenAI, models from Gemini, I have a colleague from the ECB, the European Central Bank, that says we only use mixed models because it's a European company. So there's a huge discussion on the consequences of AI adoption that goes much beyond our business process. It's important for us to plan the AI transformation with people as the central point, because we can automate, but most of the time or in the future, even if we have more agents than human employees, we have to be in the pilot seat and AI in the co-pilot seat, and not vice versa. If we think about the complete organization being run by AI engines and AI in general, what kind of organization, what kind of decisions these systems will take? So we have to go to abide to regulations, take care of innovation, but also understand how we are deciding our future, even without knowing what kind of decisions are being taken by the models we adopt, by the technology we adopt.
Building high value talent, I would say, has never been a problem for us. We are a knowledge services firm. We've been in this business for 2 decades, and building human talent has been core to our business. We work with more than 600 institutions. We cover almost all markets across the globe, from a banking perspective, whether it's a large wholesale corporate investment bank or it is a small challenger bank, we literally cover all parts of the industry. So from a talent perspective, we've sort of institutionalized our knowledge and created our training infrastructure so strong that we are able to replace and build talent pretty quickly. And now we are making them AI ready. So we've added artificial intelligence training to all our training modules, made it mandatory. We've got experience labs in our organizations where analysts can go and they can look at apps and they can play around with the AI and see the power it unleashes. So that is, definitely is not a problem with us. But the important thing is how we sort of use this talent and move them to more quality assurance, to more looking at the analytical skills. So while we were building this entire workforce and an entire pyramid kind of solution for banks, now we are looking at the top end of the pyramid, because the lower end is going to be more automated with AI, essentially. And we have built our solutions in a way and trained our people, trained our talent to be AI ready and focus on the analytical part of it. And our off-the-shelf solutions can create, tombstones and company profiles, saving 60% of manual time, but the 40% requires much more analytical skills today. From what we see in the industry, the talent is moving towards private equity firms, is moving towards technology. Banks are trimming down their entire internship models, and they are looking at solutions like us, which is combining the digital solutions with human capabilities and can give them access to AI-ready talent that they can help and they can use to create leaner operating models for themselves. This is the new way of looking at talent. Every bank wants smarter relationship teams, front office teams that can work on accelerating growth, whereas using integrated, centralized teams with us to do fundamental research and to create more consistent analytics for them.
That's a very complex question to answer. If you use AI as a productivity tool only, you're bound to be making very big mistakes, because there is a temptation to rely on it knowing about the next issue. We don't want analysts, obviously, to go down that route, and it's a bit difficult sometimes to have a ex post control of those issues. AI is a very powerful tool if people are actually very educated. So it's a strange aspect of AI, and I guess it's the same observation in many industries. If you put the AI in the hands of a beginner, he seems to have he has powerful tools, but he doesn't know how to judge the outcome of his prompt. If you have a more senior person with a high level of education and a good cultural understanding of the complexity of the world, you can qualify the feedback from AI. So one of these paradoxical issues is that it's so powerful that it needs competent people, and that there is scarcity. Finding people who are either well-educated or who are experienced and can make the best of AI is actually quite difficult in our industry, because you need such a breadth of view that you need to be flexible. Obviously, a given analyst might address a technical issue on waveguides, something which is high technical for the mastery of light. And at the next minute have a discussion about the fact that the same company with a waveguide is effectively as well a marketing company of glasses. So you see two completely different problems. AI may help on the first aspect, but you need somebody with good sense to make sure that the outcome of AI is effectively correct, which requires a lot of knowledge.
We see opportunities for AI everywhere. I mean, there is no financial institution or any institution who's not thinking about how technology and AI can help their business. The smaller banks are more nimble, they have less regulatory pressures, so they have bigger opportunities and bigger incremental benefits with AI. They are looking at faster credit approval cycles, they can fast track credit underwriting, they can create fraud or analytics, and more importantly, bespoke and tailored solutions. So they can sort of have larger gains than probably wholesale and investment banks, who are sort of catching up, who are looking at a managed service model, off-the-shelf solution that can help them simplify their complex processes and help them build operational efficiencies. Every organization has a huge potential, huge opportunity with AI. And this is sort of helping about transformation. It is about building the combination of human expertise and augmenting it with technology. So I would say that the industry is transforming. It is about transformation. It is about creating an overall positive impact with artificial intelligence.
Everyone is talking about agentic AI. So 5 years is a long time. 3 years, maybe it's an acceptable horizon for us to think about. 2025 is the age of agentic AI. So if you see the OpenAI 5-step plan for implementing, they foresee organizations that are running completely autonomously via agents. We are going to get there, but not as fast and not as they would wish. We see that they are also experimenting with agentic. We have some use cases in not customer facing yet, but use cases on agentic in the network units. I would see this as a smooth progression. We would implement low risk, high data intensive agents, level 1 agents, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5, until we have more complex high risk use cases that will always demand human oversight. This would be for the next year, for 2 to 3 years. For 5 years, it's hard to think what is going to happen. We don't know if we'll have AGI, general artificial intelligence, in the next 5 years. And data in AI is cross-section development in these 6 dimensions. So we are not changing the future of our business, but we are changing our future business with AI. But if you look at the society in general, what kind of consequences this real and deep dependence on AI models on our lives can bring in changes for the society? What kind of new geopolitical aspects will be experimented if we depend on models from one provider or not? So this is the silent battle that is going on.